Welcome to Hollywood, Paddy.
Yes, we're going to do TV news.
We are. We're going to do entertainment and showbiz today because sometimes, every now and again, that is also whoppingly great news from the entertainment industry. So newscast today will be Hollywood cast because
Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers, one of the iconic 20th century landmark institutions of the United States popular culture and global culture, really.
And today we will have an excuse to do one thing which is always a source of great joy, which is delve into one of the finest Eurovision brains in the land, which happens to belong to you.
I wondered who you were going to say then. Well, we've got one guest who knows both subjects, Netflix, Warner Brothers and Eurovision.
And we're here.
So we'll see. You can judge for yourself.
Judge for yourself. This is Saturday's newscast. Hello, it's Laura in the studio.
It's Paddy in the studio. Later we will talk about Eurovision, which is the source of headlines all over again for a boycott, although it's still going ahead in next year, the 70th. But we're going to get underway with other TV news.
We are. So let's start with this mega bucks deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers. It's like the baby's grown up. The streamers are eating the studios. It's one of the biggest deals of its kind ever in history. And to help us talk about it, mercifully, we've recruited somebody who knows more than either of us on the subject. And so we can introduce Scott Bryan, who's a TV critic and broadcaster. Scott is joining us from Salford. Hello to you.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Oh, there you are. We can see you now. Lovely to have you with us at the weekend. Great.
Yes, all good.
So, Scott, talk us through then. Well, should we do, what are the bones of this deal, first of all, and then we can get on to why it matters?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's worthwhile pointing out to start off with who Warners are these days, because it has got a bit confusing in recent times. I mean, Warners, in their history has had Looney Tunes, they make Harry Potter, they've done big hits like Friends, and of course they also run HBO, which does Succession, Sex and the City, Game of Thrones. And now Netflix, of course, hardly needs an introduction, changed the way that we watch TV, as well as films as well, have now spent this eye-watering figure, $72 billion, intending to now purchase Warners. Now, they're not buying the existing company in the US that Warners is a part of. There's a company called Warner's, it's quite long, here we go, Warner Bros. Discovery. The Discovery part run channels such as CNN, a lot of cable channels, and that's actually currently being spun off into a new company. Essentially, what Netflix are planning on doing is purchasing the existing assets. It's what they say, by having these big shows such as Friends, they are able to have them added to their existing library. Friends in the UK is already planning on leaving Netflix at the end of December. I can imagine it will sort of live on in the service in some way. But it's also, adding to its subscription base. Netflix has about 300 million users worldwide, whilst HBO has 128 million. So you're essentially adding the world's biggest streaming service, Netflix, with the third largest streaming service, HBO. So it's really, really rather big.
So they're going to have 500 million people signed up.
It's not enough.
Only a fraction more than the newscast weekend audience.
But then,
just a touch.
But also, we think of Warner Brothers as making some of the biggest movies of the 20th century. So can we just name some of them so we can all relish them? But then, is Netflix also buying studio lots? Is it buying the ability to make more content at the same time? So, Scott, give me some of the Warner Brothers movies that I can dream about, and then answer the question, is Netflix buying the capability to make more movies?
So they've made Dune, they made Challengers, they've done the sort of the latest Wonka adaptation, the Suicide Squad. I mean, they are very big on franchises too, such as Batman. But it is a big shake-up in Hollywood. Now,
we wanted you to say Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Streetcar Named Desire,
all of those as well.
In the Rain.
Those go without saying. Those go without saying. This is
a family silver. I wanted it mentioned, Scott.
But maybe I think it's a sign of how hard I think Warner Brothers have found trying to manage the modern age of making content. I mean, those are absolutely adored beloved perfect films, but of course from many decades ago. And Warner Brothers, I think it's fair to say, have been navigating the recent climate because of the rise of the streamers really rather hard. I mean, also in their favour, they have had a good couple of years. Now, they've not done too badly at the box office. They've got a great slate coming up as well.
And is Netflix buying the ability to make films and shows?
Yes. So they will be able to. I mean, Netflix say that they are going to be pretty much for the time being, for the interim, they will allow Warner Brothers to still make these films and productions. They say they are still planning on keeping the subscription service HBO Max, which is planning on actually launching in the UK in only a few months. You wonder what the long-term plans are. And they say that they are still going to be investing in content, that they are going to be maintaining their current spending plans. But as you can imagine, the news of the last 24 hours has really, I'd say, sort of shaken Hollywood to its core, because there's been concerns, firstly, about whether this is, maybe too much dominance by Netflix as a major streamer, but also in terms of if there's less competition, will that essentially mean fewer big film releases and therefore fewer jobs? There's also the contradiction in the fact that Netflix largely have been reliant on having movies made straight to people at home watching them on their TV sets. They might have a small little window for maybe Netflix films being shown in cinemas, but it's not a core part of their strategy. They might have to do them for eligibility for the Oscars, for example. But Ted Sarandos has been, who's the current co-CEO, he's been very clear about how they are, first and foremost, a entertainment industry to be enjoyed via the home. So, of course, now having this company now purchase Warner Brothers, which has for decades been very much focused on having it through the cinema releases, has certainly raised quite a lot of concerns, particularly within the cinema industry, which has been sort of struggling to get the magic back post-COVID. I mean, for the time being, Netflix say that they aren't really going to be touching that model. They're trying to, I think, allay fears. But they have said that they wanted to sort of focus very much more on sort of supporting the current industry, but they say that they might be making the windows for theatre releases, quote, much more consumer friendly. And I think there's a lot of concerns about what exactly consumer friendly means and whether that will affect kind of the cinemas having a dominance in terms of how we watch films.
Sounds to me like it probably means consumer friendly means you can stay on your butt on the sofa rather than having to shell out 20 quid for your film ticket, your bucket of popcorn when you go to a multiplex. Interesting, you mentioned there those films that sometimes go briefly to the cinema but then straight onto Netflix. The new Kate Winslet film, which we actually did an interview with her and Toni Collette and Andrea Risborough yesterday. We're going to, I know, I couldn't resist it. No. That's a Netflix film and it's going to be briefly in cinemas and then it will be available on the TV over Christmas. And no doubt I'll have a chance next week to drop that name again. And we can even play you a chunk of the interview next week because it's great to talk to these three amazing actresses all at the same time. There's a lot of hair in the room. There was a lot of hair. Before you even think about mine. But there was a lot of hair. I mean, there really was a lot of hair. But it's really interesting. How do you think, Scott, from your experience, this is going to change the movies? Is it going to just accelerate trends that were already there, or actually such a kind of massive mega corporation, is it just going to speed up change that already existed, or could it take us in different new directions?
I mean, it's fair to say that Netflix have already won the streaming wars, which were, of course, huge amounts of competition only a few years ago. They are the outright winner. They are the dominant player. They have been incredibly innovative in terms of having those shows that create so much buzz and set the national and international agenda. Adolescence earlier this year, one such production. I think a lot of eyebrows being raised by this move in terms of owning Warner Brothers, because they are, essentially a legacy business that have found it really hard to navigate these changes that Netflix themselves have introduced. So I think there's a lot of questions in regards to, what will this mean in terms of rivals? Will this actually help Netflix in terms of maintaining their dominance, or will this actually be a big liability? I think there's questions about that. But the implications are so far and wide for the whole industry. I mean, I was reading about the details, today, and one of the properties that they will now be owning outside the US is TNT Sports. So now Netflix could potentially down the line have much more direct involvement in sports. They have been doing some matches and boxing matches, some sports here and there, but they now could become a big global player. If they would want to in global sports, they have an existing deal, or at least Warner Brothers Discovery have an existing deal with the Olympics. You wonder where that will go and what side that will fall on. I think people are literally still making their way through the details of this deal to work out who owns what. But the implications it has in terms of what they own and what they could do with that would have implications on the entire media, even on the BBC, of course.
Yeah, and it would have to be approved, wouldn't it, by the competition authorities? And there is a rival interest from people that Donald Trump likes, the Ellison family. And so it's not a done deal, but it is a very big deal. And it's all very well you name-dropping Kate Winslet in that horrifying way for me and Scott.
I know, it was horrifying, wasn't it?
Well,
Sorry.
I can nerd you. I went to Netflix when it was a DVD postal service. I visited.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was 1997. I was a reporter based in New York, and I went there. It was Blockbuster had been trying to get you to go to the shop and get a VHS. It was the size of a shoebox. Take it home and watch it. And Netflix would post you DVDs quickly, and you could have as many as you want. It was an amazing innovator back then. Now we spool forward a million years, and YouTube is second to BBC One in the UK. People of younger ages do not want to sit down when a BBC person tells them to watch a programme. They want it on demand, and the Netflix is leading into all this content. And whoever ends up buying Warner Brothers, Scott, it's a reminder of the massive pace of change in my living room and in the lives of all of us who love TV, like you so brilliantly describe it to us. And do you feel that it's inevitable someone's going to get it, whether it's Netflix or somebody else, and it's just going to push more exciting content into my living room?
I mean, potentially, yes. I mean, this is the interesting thing, because people are saying, well, if Netflix purchases HBO Max, well, surely that will mean prices will have to go up because of the cost that they've spent to actually purchase to purchase Warners that have HBO Max. But also, interestingly, if you have both apps separately and they merge it onto one, that might actually bring costs down.
Is there any evidence also of people sometimes giving up and watching nothing? Because I can't be in the only household in the land where you sit down and you scroll and you look and you scroll and you look. And actually, maybe it's because I'm aging, well, aren't we all? But of a certain generation, sometimes actually choice is just baffling. And sometimes people give up, or you watch something that you've watched a million times before, or you end up going, oh God, just because I can't decide, I'm going to watch an old favourite.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think certainly a lot of young people now, I mean, you only have to look at the rise of YouTube and the rise of TikTok and see how many broadcasters, including now the BBC, say they're going to be making content specifically for it, because for young people, that's where they are spending a considerable amount of time, way more than they would watch TV. And also, I think a good litmus in terms of how TV is doing is how many people are paying for their TV licence. And it has been going down by a few 100,000 per year, but has sort of that slowdown. It has been approaching a slowdown now. So there hasn't been a full, of course, we'll see in how it's been doing in the last year, in the middle of the next year. So I think it's the case I find it's a lot about whether channels and streaming services are nimble enough to try to make content for younger viewers in a way that makes it suitable for them in terms of their viewing habits. What I find that is so fascinating is that 10 years ago, it was all about the binge model, everyone watching box set shows. But now some of the biggest shows that people are talking about, Pluribus on Apple TV Plus, a fantastic show. It's basically like Breaking Bad meets Lost. That's with weekly episodes. Even Stranger Things, they are releasing a few episodes now, and then 2 more episodes on Boxing Day, and then the finale out on New Year's Day. So they're starting to spread it out, partially as a money way, but also I think just because that's where viewers are actually wanting to watch their TV on a weekly basis.
Made me wait 7 days for each episode of The Morning Show. I was not happy.
Are you a morning show fan?
Love it. Oh my God, I love it.
I mean, I found the first series really good, and then they had that episode where they all went to space, and I was like, this show has lost the plot. And then, of course, lo and behold, they had US hosts then go to space for real. So I was like, well, you know what? Maybe they're ahead of the game and I'm in the wrong business.
I've been doing a lot of nostalgia viewing. Rufus, our producer, wants us to move on, but given that we're halfway through and have reached an unusually interesting part of the podcast, I've been doing Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes on ITVX, the classic production from the 1980s. And it's well worth, younger newscasters who've not found Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes, go to ITVX. And then I've been watching London Spy, which I think I missed the first time.
Oh, Ben Whishaw.
Yeah, BBC Two, but then it was on Netflix internationally. Then it's also on Apple, and it's also been on the iPlayer, but it's off the iPlayer. So it's a multi-platform asset.
A bit like you, Paddy, a
like me.
multi-platform asset.
A multi-platform. So look, we're going to move on because otherwise we'll be sacked. And we're going to move on to the very simple field of Eurovision. With Scott, who's an expert, me, who's sort of trapped by having gone to many of them. 4 countries have boycotted the 70th Eurovision Song Contest because of not just Israel's inclusion, but because of allegations about how Israel leveraged campaigning to get its artist to be the top of the popular vote. Allegations which Israel denies, says it plays by the rules. But there's a giant stramash about Israel at war, Israel in the contest, and Israel's behaviour in the contest, leading to the withdrawal of Spain, one of the big 5, the Netherlands, Slovenia and Ireland Eurovision royalty, although someone in Israel did say about Ireland's boycott, you haven't sent a decent song in 25 years.
Blimey.
That's the sort of tone.
Goodness me. I mean, it's a very unhappy situation, isn't it? And it's not the first time that politics has sort of infused what, might you otherwise think just be the kind of simple pursuit of glitter balls and techno pop and some strange national costume.
3 words: knickers, knackers and knockers. That's Eurovision for you. And basically it was once we grew up, it was simple. And the politics has overtaken it, Scott. How would you describe this crisis?
Well, I mean, I think it's such a... The strange thing, there's many strange elements to Eurovision, and one of the strangest, and yet its sort of core feature, is that they like to deem themselves as being a music competition, a friendly bit of competition between nations, between broadcasters, and that it has nothing to do with the outside world. Now, I think to anyone, if you look at the history of Europe and if you look at the history of the Eurovision Song Contest, it is a reflection, I'd say. It's very hard, I think, to shut the entire world out and just purely focus on the music. But that's how, that's the message that the EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, who run the contest, that's how they have always positioned Eurovision. And I think the last few years has really put that theory to the absolute test. Because, of course, to some people with the Israel-Gaza war, some say, well, how can you have a country that is being a part of that, taking part in the Eurovision Song Contest at a time where people think that would be an unfair and unsuitable thing to be happening. So there's been people who have been wishing for there to be a boycott. That then, I think, has been murmuring away. Of course, there are other people who think that Israel should be participating in Eurovision too. And I think that now Eurovision is in the biggest crisis in its history. Right. So, of course, we had a important sort of summit that always happens each year. They weren't voting on whether Israel should be included in Eurovision. They were essentially, they love being very detailed and very technocratic, but essentially it was about a strengthening of existing rules because essentially last year Israel became second in the public vote, the televote. And then there has been some criticism to say that essentially government agencies have been, really trying to push that message for their entrance to get a lot of votes, hence why they did so well. Israel has denied that. So they've now changed the rules, essentially to say that the outside government agencies can't be influencing to be more specific, countries can't be influencing the messaging on the night in regards to who is voting. Also, the amount of voting that viewers can have are now capped at 10. It used to be 20. And I think the EBU was hoping that this would stop some countries, have been saying for the last few months, we are going to boycott from doing so. When that got approved, including a large majority of different countries approved that measure, then pretty much immediately Ireland, Spain, Slovenia and the Netherlands then said that they weren't going to be participating next year. I think the EBU had been clear that they want them to come back, but of course they will now have to confirm the entrance quite soon. I guess there'll be interesting questions about whether some people would want to participate for their country if they're going to be facing a lot of hard questions if they do so. And also it's about a distraction. Will this, of course, affect people tuning in on the night itself, which is a huge programme throughout the world, really.
And Paddy, just for participants in this competition, because you've talked to lots of them over the years, I think, what do you think this will be like for them? Because if somebody just wants to turn up and sing their song and be a pop star, they don't want to get dragged into international politics, you'd imagine.
Yeah, no, I think you've put your finger on something I've always wanted to say every year and failed, which is at the heart of these giant controversies is normally someone of about 20 years old representing their country. And the British, who are renowned for having the best music in the world and one of the best sense of humour in the world, lose both when it comes to Eurovision. And if you're 20 years old and you're representing the UK, it's frightening. I mean, I've seen all sorts of people get overwhelmed by it. I mean, even Duncan from Blue, I mean, he wasn't 20 when he did it, but he was in the rehearsal. He didn't hit the note in the rehearsal, but he didn't, neither, as it said, did he know that the final jury rehearsal is voted on. It's also used as the voting process for the juries. So it was an extraordinary moment for me, one of the most influential artists. So yes, I think what you get to is that you have to remember people of 20 are in the middle of this storm. We should all try and be very human about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This particular row, Scott's just said, is the biggest crisis in its history. He then said, who will want to represent, who will want to go on the stage if it looks to be a gladiatorial fight between the biggest polarised camps in the news cycle, which is kind of how you're going to be asked at every news conference. Instead of, where did you get the inspiration for Autumn Leaf? And what did you think when you wrote Love, Love, a Bang? What were you thinking of? You'll be asked, about global politics.
Yeah, and you just really wouldn't want to do that.
Well, not everyone would. No,
and you wouldn't have thought so.
And the slogan is united by music. And
I mean, it couldn't be a worse timed new slogan for the Eurovision Song Contest to introduce, because I think for the last couple of years, it's literally been the opposite of that.
Can I ask a different question? I have always wondered why Israel is in the Eurovision Song Contest anyway, given that Israel is not in Europe.
Yeah,
EBU.
It is a good question. It's a good pub quiz knowledge.
EBU membership.
Yes, and that is allowed to nations that aren't strictly within Europe, because essentially the EBU is just a union between different broadcasters, and they could actually be from around the world. There's a link with SBS in Australia, hence why Australia are participating. There's even rumours, speculation, that a future entrant for Eurovision might be Canada, which will be an interesting one
also,
too.
I was working with Terry Wogan for years on this, and he eventually lost his temper with the contest. Saying,
Did he?
Yes, he fell out of love with it.
Very notably, on air.
Saying it had become too big. This is a contest that has to work out what it's for. And he said the whole thing had got too big, too many countries from the East who all voted for each other. And he said, look, you know what, you can have it. Having fallen in love with these kind of impossibly beautiful French women singing songs you couldn't understand in little black dresses, he loved all of that. And then when it came Oola Lama, whippy, whiplash with fur knickers, he fell out of love with the whole thing. And that was before this big political...
But he really fell out of love with it. It wasn't just his incredible dry humour for the audience.
No, he did. He lost his temper.
I
was there. I
see.
saw it happen. He just said it had enough of it. It had enough of it. And basically, a lot of the viewers have changed.
Yeah.
It is, Scott will put me right, but it is one of the biggest drivers of sort of 10 to 15-year-old TikTok action in the world.
Yeah.
In terms of the videos that are traded and the popularity of it, it is a massive global asset in the TV industry.
Yeah.
And we always slag it off, but we fail to report that there's the best talent in the world making the stage, doing the lighting, doing the filming. All the technology is amazing. And younger people in our families do not worry about the politics. They're interested in the singing.
And that's, if you were a young person in Ireland, Spain, the Netherlands or Slovenia, you might feel quite sad about what the countries have decided to do.
Yeah, the RTE, the broadcaster, has said they're not going to be participating in it, but also they're not going to be showing it within Ireland. Yes, they've said that. So, of course, I think YouTube allow you to watch in other parts of the world. I mean, this is still a show that internationally hasn't had its ratings really affected too much. I mean, I think it's roughly on par to what it has been in recent years. But in the UK, the BBC's viewership has gone down for the last sort of 2-3 years. Now, that might be because of people deciding not to go and watch it because of the of their own views on Eurovision, but also it could be because of our changing viewing habits or what else is happening on that Saturday night.
It does, though, also make it awkward for broadcasters in other countries. Now, the BBC has put a statement out saying we support the collective decision made by members of the EBU, but are they actually going to broadcast it or not? There's a petition saying that the BBC should boycott the contest too, and the BBC's got such an excellent track record for staying out of controversy. It might get quite tricky, Scott.
Yeah, so I mean, the BBC sort of indicating that they approved the measures at the meeting earlier this week when all of the different broadcasters came together. So basically lending itself to those tightening of rules that I was referring to. So I think it is set, I'd say, from where they are currently, that the BBC will be broadcasting and will have a entrant taking part next year. I mean, it will be later in this month where all of the countries will have to put forward their entrant if they are participating in it. That's when we'll find out if any other country will be actually pulling out of Eurovision next year as well. But we've also seen this. Sorry, Paddy.
Do you think there will be more, Scott? I just wanted to ask you to amplify what you were saying. I seem to have the reputation of interrupting you on this podcast.
No, it's fine.
You're not here, so I'm trying to read your runes. Do you think there will be more boycotting countries?
Potentially. I mean, there was some rumours that Belgium might pull out. I think the current indication, from what I understand, is that they might actually be participating. Iceland said that they would give an update next week, so I think we'll know more then. But I mean, the petition that you were referring to, I'm just on a petition now. 68,000 people have said that they wish that the BBC does not broadcast Eurovision next year. I mean, I would say the closer we get to Eurovision, of course, it's not until May next year. Perhaps the louder audience will become more sort of vocal. But I'd say also for the BBC, I'd say to be participating in Eurovision to some might be deemed to be a political decision, whilst if the BBC left Eurovision and weren't be taking part, to others that would also be seen to be a political decision. And this is at a time when, with the outgoing Director General Tim Davie, the BBC's been trying to sort of make it very clear how impartial they are. And of course, this is a sort of a decision that will require an opinion on. So we're going to have to sort of keep an eye on that.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how it transpires, because Eurovision is a huge deal for millions of people around, I was going to say around the continent, but not around the continent, as we've just been discussing, all over the world. What the Israeli government has said, Israel's President Isaac Herzog has said Israel deserves to be represented on every stage in the world, and I am fully and actively committed to that. Yolan Yochbaks from Israel's TV broadcaster KAN said a boycott may begin today with Israel, but no one knows where it will end or who else it may harm.
Well, look, we're going to say goodbye to Scott because we can't possibly allow him to spend more of his Saturday on the red box gate. Scott, I hope you don't feel I've interrupted you. I've got a reputation.
It's fine. Apologies have been, because I know we're in the other ends of the country.
No, I don't want anyone to think that I don't love listening to you, and it's been very, very kind of you to join us with your expertise and your nous.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Lovely speaking to you both as well.
Great to have you. Thank you, Scott. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Nous is an underused word, Paddy.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yes. Nousecast.
So we've got to do some pick-up on Red Box Gate, which began with you, I think, and a newscaster.
It was a newscaster, yes.
Over whose cipher was on the red box.
Correct. A newscaster, I think, noticed it with eagle eyes, and then producer Chris, very enterprisingly, found out more of the history of the red box and the red budget box, and found out something of a mini scandal, according to the makers of the original red box, who I think it's fair to say were rather put out that they hadn't been asked to make another new red box.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it took a long time to get the explanation, but we got there in the end. And then we've had Nicola, newscaster, say, I listened with interest to the Red Box imposter story. It would be really interesting to see if budgets since the new imposter box was introduced have been cursed by negative reception or impact. Could this be the curse of the imposter box? Do you want to go on, Laura, with this?
Yes, maybe the Treasury should take up the offer to get a proper box made with the King's livery. It might bring the Treasury, the Chancellor and the country more financial fortune. Well, Treasury, you might be having a bit of a quieter weekend than you did last weekend, so maybe you'll have time to get back to us on Newscast about the deepening mystery of the real red box.
And you could be on the same show as Laura and Kate Winslet, just in case anyone doubts that Laura's been meeting Kate Winslet. That's how she rolls.
Oh dear, I think that's more than enough from us, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Come for the news, stay for the nous. That's it for Saturday's Newscast.
Goodbye.